So I am reading Dr. Martin Luther King's Strength to Love. I come back to this book a lot because it's got his sermons that he was giving during the civil rights movement, and the things that he was talking about then are still very applicable to today. And I'm reading the Transformed NonConformist. And I was just struck by this, and I wanted to share it with everybody. So here we go. In spite of this imperative demand to live differently, we have cultivated a mass mind and have moved from the extreme of rugged individualism to the greater extreme of rugged collectivism. We are not makers of history, we are made by history. Longfellow said, in this world, a man must either be an anvil or a hammer, meaning that he is either a molder of society or is molded by society. Who doubts that today most men are anvils and are shaped by the patterns of the majority? Or to change the figure, most people, and Christians in particular, are thermometers that record or register the temperature of the majority opinion, not thermostats that transform and regulate the temperature of society. Many people fear nothing more terribly than to take a position that stands out sharply and clearly from the prevailing opinion. The tendency of most to adopt a view that is so ambiguous that it'll include everything, and so popular that it'll include everybody. Along with this has grown an inordinate worship of bigness. We live in an age of jumboism, where men find security in that which is large and extensive. Big cities, big buildings, big corporations. This worship of size has caused many to fear being identified with a minority idea. Not a few men who cherish lofty and noble ideals hide them under a bushel for fear of being called different. Many sincere white people in the South privately oppose segregation and discrimination, but they are apprehensive lest they be publicly condemned. Millions of citizens are deeply disturbed that the military-industrial complex too often shapes national policy, but they do not want to be considered unpatriotic. Countless loyal Americans honestly feel that a world body such as the United Nations should include even Red China, but they fear being called communist sympathizers. A legion of thoughtful persons recognizes that traditional capitalism must continually undergo change if our great national wealth is to be more equitably distributed. But they are afraid their criticisms will make them seem un-American. Numerous decent, wholesome young persons permit themselves to become involved in unwholesome pursuits that they do not personally condone or even enjoy because they are ashamed to say no when the gang says yes. How few people have the audacity to express publicly their convictions, and how many have allowed themselves to be astronomically intimidated. Blind conformity makes us so suspicious of an individual who insists on saying that what he really believes that we recklessly threaten his civil liberties. If a man who believes vigorously in peace is foolish enough to carry a sign in public demonstration, or if a Southern white person believing in the American dream of dignity and worth of human personality dares to invite a Negro into his home and join with him in his struggle for freedom, he is liable to be summoned before some legislative investigation body. He most certainly is a communist if he espouses the cause of human brotherhood. Thomas Jefferson wrote, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. I repeat it one more time. Thomas Jefferson wrote, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. To the conformist and the shapers of the conformist mentality, this must surely sound like the most dangerous and radical of doctrine. Have we permitted the lamp of independent thought and individualism to become so dim that were Jefferson to write and live by these words today, we would find cause to harass and investigate him? If Americans permit thought control, business control, and freedom control to continue, we shall surely move within the shadows of fascism. Pertinent today as it was back then. So, food for thought.